Transport Fever 2. This is what the game calls a very large map, and it is indeed very large. This game started in 1850, we are now in 1853, April the 9th of 1853, April the 10th. We can set the date speed, and I have it set to its lowest, because even at this pace it seems to go very fast. And I like this decade. I love this very, very quiet, slow, rural world. I'm doing a series of videos in this world. This is right at the start, and the intention is to record every 20 years. I'm hoping very much that next door's lawnmower isn't coming in. The sound of a lawnmower is a particularly raucous sound to have in a world that doesn't have any motors at all yet. But I did a trial run. In my trial run I couldn't hear that, and he's been going forever, and he's got a large lawn, and I don't want to wait 3 hours or so until he finishes. So I apologise if that sound is coming into this video, but I suspect it's not. Now, 1853, this map is set to Europe. It's kind of nominally England, and I'm assuming that given the town names I've been provided. It started out with 21 towns. It still has 21 towns. They're fairly small, they're just a couple of blocks each, and many of them I haven't even looked at. 3 years in the game, there's a whole lot to do and not much money. My budget is very tight. I'm sitting at $93,000 in my bank account, and I have a loan of $6 million. A loan of $6 million, out of which I am paying a fair bit of interest. So at this stage of the game, even in easy mode, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of decisions to be made in what to set up and what not to. Now, I've had a little bit of trouble finding editing software that doesn't change the visuals, and this game taxes my computer's capabilities. It taxes it particularly when I'm recording as well as playing, which I'm doing right now. So it's kind of barely showing what I'm showing. Excuse me, it's barely showing what I'm seeing at the moment. It is showing that though. I'm kind of pleased with the way this recording goes, but anytime I put it into editing software, I seem to lose that. It changes something. It comes out a bit blurry. It doesn't, however I set the frame rate and the resolution, it doesn't show what I'm seeing, and I particularly want that in this video. So these are raw recordings. If I cough, if I sneeze, if I say the wrong words, they're going to stay in this recording forever. So I'll try not to. But it's very strange. As soon as I'm doing a raw recording, I always want to sneeze. And plus, the neighbour is mowing his lawn and creating lots of dust in the air. So this is my map. I'll zoom out a little bit. We've got a very large area to work with. I have industries that need to be connected. I have goods to be transported, and that's what the game is all about. Transportation of goods and people. I'm going to do this fairly methodically and look at all the towns in turn, or, well, I might, because honestly, at the start, a couple of the towns have individual characteristics, but there's something very similar in the architectural styles, and the geography really is fairly similar too. There's a few differences though. For instance, some are on a river. They're not all on a river. The river is a beautiful thing, and that makes this town, which is, what's this one called? Shanklin. That makes towns like Shanklin a little more unique than some of the others. Now, something that happens in this game is the towns will grow or reduce depending on circumstances, depending on what they're getting. They each have needs. So Shanklin, for instance, needs bricks and goods. And the better I can supply those needs, the faster it grows and the more people will move in. And if they perceive problems in the town, like traffic gets too bad or emissions are too high or they can't get what they want, people will start moving out and the houses will reduce. I quite enjoy watching this, watching the houses change on their own. Streets will change too. It's very hard to catch those streets changing, but they do, and they will also build new streets out if excuse me, if there's enough people moving in. I can add to that. I can change the roads as I want to, but at this stage of the game that all costs money, and money's very tight. So there's another one going up. It does, yep, there are definitely people moving into this town at the moment. Now, this is, as I said, nominally England. They've been given the names of real English towns. They're not necessarily positioned where the English towns are, and anybody who has even a passing knowledge of either England or English literature and English television shows, English settings, will see that this is not very English at all. England just... the towns in England evolved over centuries. They have windy little roads. They don't have these beautifully laid out footpaths, which you can only get if you come into a completely blank place, really, and set them out from the scratch. And the style of the houses are not very British at all. Big windows, for instance, that's not a British thing. And outdoor tables is not a British thing, because England has snow in winter, rain in summer, wind all the year round. People just... it's not pleasant to sit outside unless, and they did it of course, unless you have high walls as a windbreak. And that's what you saw in England. You saw gardens surrounded by high walls which made their outdoor spaces pleasant. But that is one detail in this game, and it's not a criticism of the game. I'm quite happy to see this as an alternate reality, that's fine. But it does differ from England. The other thing is, England was not built on private enterprise, and all of these advertising signs that you see on everything, England didn't have that. England was pretty much a state-provided community. The monarchy was big, the church was big, and the monarchy and the church set up all the infrastructure, really. So you would see things like signs hanging outside inns, but it certainly wasn't this ostentatious. I don't mind that. It gives the place a flavour of its own, but it makes it feel like a foreign place, not Europe. And I just point that out because anybody who knows Europe is going to notice that too. We've also got little things like women are far more emancipated here, because look at this, women driving carts. Women might do that in a very rural area, but not in a town, absolutely not in a town. One nice feature of this game is that every character has a name and an address, so I can look at Matilda White and I can see where she lives. I don't know if I can go there, but she's in the same house as Jack Stewart. That's where the details fail a bit, I think, because what is a woman doing living in a house with men of a different surname? Maybe they're half brother sister. Women didn't even live in the same house as a male servant. The opposite happened. Gentlemen took on female servants and had them living in the house, but you know, that was society. Anyway, we've got horse and carts, we've got a fair bit of traffic building up in Shanklin.
Hey.
You can get into the heads of your characters, and I call them characters, they're like, it's people with NPCs, they're really the NPC thing is happening. But we can be with them, we can see what they're doing, we can look at their horses, we can look at them up close. And that is kind of cool. So we can therefore get a feel for the town, and it does have, despite those little criticisms I just had for the place, it really does have a sense of 1850. You do feel like here you are in a completely other world. When they appear and disappear, that means they've reached the place they were going to. So it's not just like a graphical glitch. They've got to the business or the house they were heading for, and when they disappear, they've just gone inside. We can also see there's a bit of a range of clothing. There's not that much diversity in the people of the world, but there is some, and I think what they've done is they've got a range of costumes that cover like a 50-year period, 5 decades or so, and they've put them all in at once. So he's got home. So he vanished from the street, and now we're in his house here. But I was talking about the clothes. So you get women dressed like this, who no woman would have dressed like this in 1850. My goodness. What were they thinking? And even this, like with the ankle showing, 1850 was a material down to the ground sort of era. Those Victorian years. That is way more of a, well, honestly, it's a 1905, 1910 look, if not 1915. But at least it's not modern. It's not completely modern. So the majority of people do look roughly suited to the purpose. This one, no, absolutely not for this era. Here is one that is, excuse me, potentially a bit more. I'll just have to jump into somebody's head to see her properly. Oh no, we went home. It is so hard. So hard to find someone who's not just about to jump. Okay, here we go. See, her clothes are a little better, but very American. That's an American bonnet. You know, that one's more like it. That lady over there. I thought I'd sit here and not talk for a second so we can hear the sounds of an 1850s town in this game. And it's lovely, it really is. You see a lot of videos for this game online, and they really always focus on cities. A lot of people love the modern cities with all the trains and buses, bustling traffic. I don't. I like this. I like the rule. And this vehicle, even better, is now going to leave the town and go out into the proper country, which is my favourite part. The game comes with quite a few roads. The roads are sometimes exactly where you want them, and if they are, people use it. I mean, people are going to use the roads anyway because they need to get from one place to the other. Some of the roads are very inconvenient, but given the money I have at this stage of the game, there's not really much I can do about that. I can't afford to put in roads in the places that would work best. So we're just living with what they've got, going with all the twisty turns that they have, sometimes going in a complete wrong direction for a while in order to access a different road that goes in the direction you want. And I'm going to leave this fellow here in a minute. Oh, was it a fellow or a lady? Oh, it's a lady. The ladies would, if they ever did drive a vehicle, they wouldn't have been driving unattended out on an open road like this. Just one of those things. So because of that, because I'm going to find one of my cards. They are all just private citizens. So my plan is, and I'll do it now, because why not, to look at a couple of my towns from one end of the map to the other. I'm starting from the far south east, I believe. Well, I am, but I'm turning the map around. What happens is you can swivel the map the way you want, and then if I've mentally nominated a north, south, east and west, it no longer works if I've swiveled it. So I try to keep the map the same way. Okay, Farnham is my far southeast town, and its buildings are quite similar to those of Shanklin. This has slightly different geography. There's no river here. It's got a mountain behind, and some of the buildings are growing up close to that. You can actually get into a walking person as well, but they tend to do their like little rock as they walk. I find that quite disconcerting. But we'll see how far he goes. We'll see if we can find a driver to hook him. No, I can't do it. There'll be a driver going that way any second, won't there? Okay, where are you going? Oh, it's another woman. The thing I wanted to point out was that they've got the mountain right up against the town, so that gives it a slightly different feel. There are different sides to the map. There's generally an industrial area, there's a commercial area, and then there's a residential area. I seem to be finding more traffic in the... I'm going to see if this one goes up this hill. I don't know if he does. Oh no, he doesn't. Not every town has a hill. I think the hills are one of those features that makes it a little more unique. Here's the residential side, which I would actually love to drive in. I mean, they're going the other way. Let's try this one. Some of the names I think are not quite suited to the time either. So there are different size houses, and the bigger houses have more people in them. It's sort of how the game sets them up. Little houses like that only have one or two. Oh, she's gone in somewhere. And that's really all I can say about a town at this point. They won't have any public transport networks unless I set them up, and so far in the game I'm very much focused on rural and industry, which kind of is because that's also my favourite part of the game. I love the rural areas. I've done nothing over here in 1853. I've got a whole lot of industries, and I need to connect them up with truck routes and such, but so far I really haven't even got to this corner. So they're dormant industries, which is kind of a bit sad. You sort of look at them, and especially if sometimes you drive past them and they're just quiet, doing nothing. If they remain for too long without being connected, they close down, and I find that even sadder. So I try to connect everything I can, but money's tight and it's not easy to do. So we've got Farnham, we've got Marlborough, which is just a little cross-shaped village, nothing more. That's even quieter. Farnham starts off as a decent size. This one, like, I'm not seeing any traffic at all, any horse and carts traffic. It's just people walking around. Oh no, there's one over there.
Hey.
And I'm sticking in the heads of my people just because I don't have anything. Oh, where's he going? Like Farnham, this town has hills behind. They're not quite as close. The town is all on the flat, basically. That's a great house over there. I want to go that way and look at them. I presume they're houses. Sometimes, like this is a commercial area, and sometimes the commercial buildings look very much like the houses. I feel also at times that people have a very strange way of driving on the roads. They don't seem to give way to pedestrians right through the game. It's like pedestrians have to give way to trucks. Okay, so those... I'm trying to think where I was just looking. Where was I looking? Where was those ones? Oh, here. That was one of them. So I think that's actually not a house at all. They're commercial enterprises. It looks so pretty. I'm not quite sure. Okay, that's a market. So this is the commercial side of town that maybe will develop into a proper CBD if I can get the town going. Okay, so that was Marlborough. After Marlborough, we do have an end of the world, and that can be a bit disconcerting. I've adjusted to it. They do really well. If you're actually in the world looking out, and maybe I'll get a chance to show that, it sort of looks like ocean, like as long as you don't look too close. And I think that's rather cool. After Marlborough, we've got, I can't find it, Newland here, and yeah, no point really going. Oh, actually there might be here because I've actually connected these industries. We need to give them truck depots by the industries, and I have my own cart bringing crude oil, and that's what he's carrying. He's carrying 4 barrels of crude oil, which is all a vehicle of this type can actually carry. Now this covered wagon pulled by 2 horses is top of the line technology for 1853. It's faster than most of the private traffic, and it's lovely. I really like them. They're a great unit. They're not fast. 18 kilometres an hour is their maximum speed. They can't handle corners well, so they slow down a lot when they reach a corner, and they can't handle hills. They can slow down to 4 kilometres an hour, either 3 or 4 on a steep hill. Which means that it's a slow game at the start. It's inevitably a slow game. Of course it can be faster if you pick a smaller world. I've got a very large map and I've set it to the slowest date speed because I like the slow. I like the pace of it. Even now I feel like the towns are a little too noisy for me. I do see that some parts of town would be, but I like the slow and I like the country, and so he's moved through. He's heading for Newland South, which at some point I will go around and rename these places so that means something to me. I can see by what I call the line that he is taking crude oil to an oil refinery where it will be turned into fine oil, and it will then be taken further on to a fuel factory, because the fuel factory needs refined oil. And that's what the game is about. It is about connecting all the chain of industry from a primary industry to the tertiary. Sometimes there are more steps involved in this. Early on in the game, you've really just got to get the primary industries going. So that's crude oil wells, the actual oil wells, the stone quarries, farms. There was something else. Oh, ore and coal. So just connecting those to whatever place is going to process that raw product. So here he slowed down enormously because he can't handle the corner. Excuse me. So this is where he drops off his goods, and that he earned $12,000. Now maintenance is extracted from all the vehicles as they travel at periodic points, and they're only going to make a profit if their end delivery price comes to more than the maintenance that was extracted. This did for him, so that's what we want. We want profitable lines like that. Sometimes you just have to leave them unprofitable just for the sake of getting the industry going. Anyway, that was him. Over here we've got others coming from exactly the same place. They've been picking up their crude oil from here. The oil well is putting it over here. So they come here, they pick it up, and they take it all the way through town, right over to the refinery, and then at some point I'll hook up the refinery to take it further on. But early days. So we've got mountains. The mountains make it very, very hard. The horse and carts can barely, it takes them forever. They have to go round the mountains. They can't possibly go over the top. It's a nice view from up here. Get a bit of wind. I'm very fond of the forests. They have a couple of different tree types, different ones for mountains, different ones for the plains. Sorry if that's disorienting. Then over here I have an ore mine that is not yet connected, so it's just sitting there waiting. This is a beautiful road. These roads just came with the game, but I really do like the hilly windy roads. I look forward to getting trucks going on that so I can do the drive with them. But that said, we've got all the towns and I don't need to go around them all right now. We've got Penrith up here, we've got Kidderminster, Heartland, Southwell. Some of them I will very likely change the names of. We can change the names of any of the town, and I've already done that up here. Ellsworthy was Shepshed, and I changed that name because I just find Shepshed is, I don't know, not pretty enough. And I'm probably going to change Kidderminster too because I have a tiny bit of knowledge of the real Kidderminster and I don't like that to overlap. Whereas I don't have that issue with Dover, even though I know two different places called Dover. But I guess that's it, I know two, so that doesn't seem quite as unique to me. Dover's a very large place. I guess the other thing is I've got very modern picnic benches. Not those nice little ornate cast iron garden seats. Or even woodlands. But yeah, the architecture is very much the same in the towns. We've got a couple of rivers here. which I can choose what I'm going to do with the rivers. Rivers are quite lovely. It gave us a couple of bridges. I was just looking for them. There's a bridge here crossing over. There is a bridge up here. And down here, oh, whoops. Over here, I think, yes, there's a bridge right up there. So we've got a few connection points. But over in this corner, like, there's no towns, I suppose. But it can be complicated at this stage of the game, like if I've got industries. For instance, I've got a factory over here that's going to turn refined oil into chemicals, which is plastics. And then those plastics can be used over here by this factory that takes steel and plastics and makes goods. But how do you get them from here to here? It's a long trek down here for a horse and cart. Actually, no point going that way. It's a long trek by the existing roads through Kidderminster, all the way through Southwell, across here, over that bridge, then back. And actually, now I look at it, there is no connection point between these towns and those anyway. So how do you do it? They're basically unconnected. This area over here, Ellsworthy, has a bridge, and you could do it by going practically around the whole map, but they're the sort of challenges you are faced in the early part, and that just means you can't connect those industries. You've just got to wait. Now, have I got trucks over here? I have a few over here going between the industries, that it's kind of easier to connect these lovely little horse and carts that I am very fond of. Taking 4 iron, for whatever you want to call it, of iron units, I suppose. This is a prettier area because it's got all. This is where I started. I came into the map at Shanklin, which was not far over from these places. So on this side of the map, we have the hills. This is the south around Farnham, has a whole lot of mountains that are hard, but Tadcaster up here, we've got Porthleven, we've got mountains here. In this corner, we've got a place called Tadcaster in the top. Tadcaster is so surrounded by mountains that I haven't even considered going there. It's a nice large town, and it's very treed. That is probably a unique flavour for this town. The amount of forests it's got right among the houses. Let's see if we can have a look. Good, it's going the way I want it. Being so isolated, I guess it's very self-contained. Yeah, I do like that. I do like... Oh, it's turned. I guess we can still see. There's some of them right there, right behind the houses. We've got dense forest, which is lovely. You can actually kind of go into these buildings, but there's nothing in there. They're empty shells. Like so. They've done well with the gardens, I think. I like the gardens. So behind the buildings, the industrial places look quite industrial. Anyway, that's probably all I need to say for 1850. It's just a brief look at the world. That's a fantastic mountain. That's the end of the world, though. There's not really many easy ways to get bird's eye view of the place. Oh, bird's eye we can do. There's not really many ways to get a personal view of the places because I haven't set up infrastructure. Sheldon's a great place. I like the way it's in between these rivers. It's very small, but I like that too. This one out here, I guess we've got there's the big bridge. Oh, we should go into the bridge. Oh, fantastic. We'll go over the bridge. It comes to a point just further on there, which I feel like that'd be a fantastic place to live. Maybe not in these days because, you know, the wind. All the roads have their own speed rating too. These dirt roads have a maximum of 40 kilometres an hour, which is like well beyond the capacity of any vehicle in this world at the moment in 1853. So here we go over the big bridge. She's got quite a zippy, it was a woman, wasn't it? Yep, she's sort of dressed like a maid, but she's got quite a zippy vehicle. It is slowing down, we're down to 5 kilometres an hour, but that's pretty good for this era. Some of them slow down much more than that. Now over there is the end of the world, and like it just looks like Horizon. I think they did a great job with that. She's speeding up now as she gets to the top of the bridge. I do wonder where she's going. And I guess that's that. This is not a long video because there's not really much I can talk about. I will, I think, just go out into the country though. Just looking for one of my vehicles that might be in the very rural areas, and I don't think I've got it. Probably the closest I can get. You can see where I've started work. These are mine. Oh, here's something I haven't talked about. I have stagecoaches. Some of them are running between towns like Dover, Melbourne, passenger run. And in the stage, with the stagecoaches, I can go inside and see my people. Back in the old days, I've read a lot of books set in the 19th century, and it seems like when you travel by coach, like it was fairly slow and relatively intimate, and people had amazing conversations in the stagecoach. They fixed the problems of the world and talked about their views and shared stories of things they'd done that the other people probably had never heard of doing or never thought of doing. And I do think that's really cool. I like the way in this game you can look out the window, you can sort of see what they're seeing when they look outside. They don't seem to be looking outside, but there's the outside view. And this coach has 4 people. The 4th person is sitting on top, which maybe wouldn't have been quite so pleasant. In the real world they had that back thing lifted up to give them a shelter for rain. She's up there on her own with nobody to talk to. So I've got these coaches in the towns as well. Where have I got one? Yes, here's one. Because I've actually this is my first bus run that I've put into this town, which does wonders for a town. They grow like mad once you put in a bus service. You need a few other things, but a bus service absolutely helps. It lets people get from home to work and go shopping and all the things that people want to do, which I think according to this game, that's about it. Yeah, Beautiful service. Auto save. Stop salt. Save. And here we've got people waiting. This bus service is already somewhat inadequate for the needs of the town. Oh wait, they'll cope. They're lucky to have one. Most towns don't have one at this point. So yeah, a coach, beautiful, beautiful thing. Very nice to see. Over there was all the maintenance money coming out of the vehicles. We've got one person waiting here. I might just hop in with her just to see how the town looks. Through the windows. Because I look through the windows of the intra-town. It's kind of nice. That's one of the fun things about the game is you've got to get the cursor in just the right spot to work. But it's one of the fun things. That's a better spot. Yep, what fun it is. So that's probably all. I would have liked to, there's a few other things going on, but they're not popping out at me at the moment. A few little random events occur. We're not seeing them right now. This is the food factory. Food comes out, sits here, waits to be collected. This place has quite, well, not a huge amount, but quite enough food, more food than I'm catering to at the moment. Here comes one of my trucks to pick it up. When they pick it up, the food disappears from here. That probably won't happen this time because there is such an overload of food sitting here waiting to be collected. And he's only going to pick up 4. There we go, that was 332 maintenance. Oh, he's not picking up at all. He's dropping off. He's dropping off grain. When somebody does come to pick this up, even in 1853, some people have faster vehicles, and we're holding them up because on these roads you can't overtake. So anybody who gets caught behind a slow vehicle has to just sit there. Gosh, the traffic's building up on this road. That's incredible. Wow. That's just amazing, 1854. But, I mean, you put in a few truck runs and everybody moves to the area. And then complains about the trucks. That is an insanely busy road. All the way along. There's my stagecoach. It's just about to go past this food place, and here's somebody, excuse me, bringing another load of grain in. Oh, I wonder if I can get in there in time to look out the window. No, I can't. It's just, you need to position it, and I didn't give myself enough time. Oh, the challenges. Oh, got here. Sort of got here. It can be done. Can be done, but not in a hurry. Here's my guy heading off, having emptied. Oh, he hasn't emptied. Oh, so clicked on. He's picked up. He's on his way to the food place. And that's how the industry works. You pick up from a farm, you take it to a food place, and then another truck picks it up from here and takes the food into a town that wants it. Now, the way it always happens is you've got a food processing place here, but Dover does not want food. My assumption is that all the people in the town are working at that factory, so they're just taking home food when they leave work and providing it to their neighbours and such. So there's no need for a delivery run between the food factory and Dover. So Miltham was the nearest town that needed food, so I've set up that run. A lot of the other towns also need food. For instance, over here, Marlborough needs food, but that's just impossibly far. That would take like 15 years for a food truck to get across to here to give them any food, so they're not getting it. I've got better uses for my trucks. They will eventually have to, but you know, not while we're at this stage of technology. So that's it. That is my game. And that is the world of 1853. I'll do another video